Every other Sunday we slow down. We don't rush the mind here. We sit with our shadows, we open old doors, and we tell the stories that shape us. Welcome to Mentara theory, the other side of the door. Because sometimes the moment that breaks you is the moment God begins to rebuild. This is one of those stories. At 4 a.m., the world was still. The air felt heavy, as if even the walls were holding their breath. I reached across the bed and touched only cold sheets, the kind of cold that sinks into you like something's missing. My husband wasn't beside me. I found him lying on his back, staring at the ceiling like it held every answer we didn't have. We had prayed, we had tried, we had hoped our way through more fertility treatments than we could track. And nothing came. 2.5 years of expectation, followed by 2.5 years of heartbreak. Depression wasn't just sadness, it was a place. A room with no windows, a hallway with no light at the end. I had once believed depression was purely illness, something broken, medical, chemical. But what we were living through didn't feel like sickness. It felt like God was breaking the shell of who we were, because something new had to grow. A painful pruning. Not punishment, preparation. Every failed cycle felt like a funeral, another dream lowered into the ground, until numbness became easier than prayer. But God began placing people in our path. People who showed up with encouragement, with presence, with just enough hope to hold on to. Hikers call them trail angels. Strangers who appear when the journey feels impossible, offering food, water, direction, or the strength to take one more step. And that's exactly what God gave us. Trail angels of the soul. People we didn't expect, words we needed, moments of mercy timed too perfectly to be coincidence. Then one day, after another failed cycle, another drive home with that sinking feeling I already recognized, I stepped onto my porch and found a small, lifeless duck embryo. Fragile. Still. A symbol of what we were losing again and again. I laid down and wept until sleep pulled me under. Hours later, when morning light crept through the blinds, I heard rustling outside, soft feet, a gentle tapping of a beak against the metal railing. Not a knock, but a persistent presence. When I opened the door, there she stood, the mother duck. No fanfare, no miracle, just a creature who also knew loss. In her beak, she held something small, a worm, her only offering. And somehow, that moment spoke louder than words. Two grieving mothers facing loss at the same doorstep. Not alone anymore. Even in nature, God was speaking. You are seen. Soon after, God spoke through a stranger, a man on a bus who looked at me and said, out of nowhere, "You seem like someone who will adopt children from all over the world," a sentence no human would have reason to say. Yet it cracked open a door inside us. Depression stopped looking like abandonment and began looking like God's redirection. One night, I woke not to sorrow but to presence, unmistakable, holy, near. It wasn't energy. It wasn't vague spirituality. It was God, the same God we had cried to, begged, questioned. And he asked me, if you were pregnant today, would you still adopt? My honest answer was no. I wanted a baby in my body. I wanted motherhood in my flesh. But God was growing me slowly, expanding my heart farther than my own plans could reach. We continued treatments, drove across states, sat in waiting rooms, held hands through more disappointment than most marriages survive. And then a documentary. A boy living in a garbage dump said through tears, "It hurts so much to not be loved." And we knew. Our child was out there. Not in my womb, but in the world. Science shows depression can shrink or weaken parts of the brain. But neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to heal, means recovery is possible. With healing through treatment, support, hope, and change, the brain can regain volume, connectivity, resilience. And I think hearts can too. Sometime later, I joined a women's prayer group, a circle of women who knew what waiting felt like. Some prayed for prodigal sons, others for marriages cracking under pressure, some for healing, some for children they may never meet. We held hands, we prayed, we wept, we invited God into the places we didn't have answers for. And I prayed for the child I didn't yet know, but loved already. That night, the phone rang. We found him. Not a daughter like we imagined, but a son. Weeks later, a package arrived, his video. A boy smiling, joyful, radiant. Hope flooded my spirit like sunrise breaking through every closed door. We became parents that day. And that same night, God returned. Same presence, same voice. If you were pregnant now, would you still adopt? And my heart finally answered, yes, fully, freely, without condition. And that night, we conceived naturally. His sister, 2 children. One received through adoption. One conceived by God's timing. A double blessing born from the doorway of sorrow. Depression was not the ending. It was the hallway God walked us through to reach the family He had planned all along. Pain is one side of the door. Redemption is the other. And sometimes God brings the miracle only after we walk through the darkness holding His hand. Maybe your story doesn't look resolved yet. Maybe you're still standing in the hallway, unsure which door will open, or if any will at all. It's easy to believe silence means God isn't moving, but sometimes silence is where rebuilding begins. Healing isn't instant. Meaning isn't obvious in the middle chapter. And even the brain, worn down by depression, can repair, reconnect, and strengthen over time through support, hope, and small steps forward. Our hearts can do the same. You might not feel growth while you're breaking. You might not see purpose while you're waiting, but the absence of progress doesn't mean the story is finished. Some of the most beautiful chapters unfold after we're convinced we have nothing left. If our journey shows anything, it's this. Darkness isn't always a dead end. Sometimes it's the doorway. Sometimes it's where God begins rewriting what you thought was gone. You don't have to be whole yet. You don't have to have answers today. Just keep breathing, keep hoping, keep walking. It only takes one moment for everything to change. And you might be closer to that moment than you think. And if this story met you somewhere personal, if it helped you breathe a little deeper or feel a little less alone, I'd love for you to subscribe and stay with us.